Hello and welcome to DST Racing Projects. This instalment will talk about Dave's Benelli 252C that was one of the first projects we got involved in. I'll be asking Dave a few questions about his early life involving Benelli motorcycles, but this is the beast that we have now, and we'll talk you through what it is, how it is, and where it came from, and some of the few things that we've done to it. So I'll get Dave to come out and talk to us. David,
I'm coming. It's only me.
Right then, David, can you tell us a bit how you got involved with Benellis in the first place?
Yeah, it was about 1974, something like that, 3-4. I wanted to buy, well, basically get rid. I'd sort of British bikes up till then, not really had anything decent, and I'd got a decent job, and so I went to our local motorcycle dealers and bought a Benelli 250, a green one, and I rode it for about a year. Loved it. It was quick, it was nimble, loved it to bits. And then the Italian electronic gremlins bit it and killed it. At that time, there was no really anybody in the UK that knew anything about the bits and bobs, and even the main dealers, they couldn't tell us what was wrong with it. So we decided to put a different ignition system on it. It was total loss ignition system, and at that time I always fancied having a go at racing, so I built it as a racing bike. So really my first proper racing bike was a 250 Benelli.
Brilliant. How did you come by this one?
Well, me and Susie had gone to the Auto Jumble at Newark, just up the road, and we were wandering around the Auto Jumble, and I see two bikes. I say bikes, there were a chassis, wheels, no bodywork on them at all, but instantly knew that it was a Benelli engine, even though there was only half an engine and one barrel. And I was stood there looking at this thing thinking, you know, that's an old Benelli, that is. Oh, mine one of them. And so Susie did a bit of a deal with the guy who was selling it, and we paid him a deposit, and then about a week later we went over to Doncaster and bought it, and then brought it back here, not really knowing what I was going to do with it.
Right, so not really knowing what you was going to do with it and where it was going to end up and how you was going to do it must have led to a few questions about where can I get the parts from.
Well, absolutely, and luckily, and now it's a lot easier because you can just go on the internet. So I sort of trawled around Facebook looking for Benelli pages or whatever, and came across one or two people that offered advice and help. So at that time I thought, right, okay, well, I'm going to do something with it. So I started my own 250 Benelli race bike page on Facebook, even though I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. The idea really was to most probably parade it rather than race it.
Yep.
So that's what I did.
That's good. Now, I was involved with this from the beginning, although I didn't spend as much time on it as Dave did. Dave sourced the majority of the parts. He sourced a lot of the information, and one of the guys in New Zealand, can't remember his name,
Martin
was very helpful in pointing him in the right direction.
And still is.
So let's start with the cycle parts themselves, the chassis, the wheels and the brakes and the suspension. The front brake is not normal for this day and age, in as much as it's a twin-sided drum brake.
It is, yeah.
Which was the standard brake on the machine
It
itself.
was, yeah. It was the one that used on the Benelli.
What have you done to modify it to make it
Well,
more
it's
efficient?
got race brake linings in it, and I put these extra scoops on there basically just to get a bit more air in, and opened up all the vents here to allow more air into the drum to keep it a little bit cooler. And to be fair, it's a flipping good brake, a lot better than I thought. And I haven't weighed it as it is, but in there, as you know, we're doing the TZ 350 and it's got twin discs on it, and I nearly gave me a hernia trying to lift the front wheel up. And it's a lot lighter than that, so I'm quite happy with it. Yeah, it's good.
I know that when we first got the machine, it had the original
well, I don't know whether they
steel
were
rims.
original. They were steel rims. I think the original ones did come with alley rims, but they'd got steel rims on them, and they were nasty. So I went down to see RWH Motorcycles in Lincoln, and they found me some rims and laced the wheels, and there you go.
Good, brilliant. We'll talk about the suspension in its entirety in a little bit.
Yeah.
The frame itself, although it was a road-going engine machine, I assume it still had all its lugs on it.
Yes, it did. Yeah, everything.
For stands. And
Yeah, absolutely everything.
So what went on there?
Well, when I was talking to Martin in New Zealand, he had used some rubber bushes or neoprene, whatever the new stuff is that they use, and he put these sort of rubber bushes on. So we made all these rubber bushes up underneath here. Look, you can just see them all there. And so I got all those sort of bushes and the tubes and what have you, got everything sorted, and luckily for me, 3 doors down the road is Matt, a young lad. He runs his own company now. He was working for somebody then called Microbium. He came round, luckily welded everything up for me, because to be fair, I can weld a little bit, but he would have most probably fallen off by now if I'd have done it. So Matt did all the welding for me, and he's done a cracking job.
Now, all the other logs have been cut off and disposed of.
Yeah.
I think we weighed them at some point.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think
there's quite a lot of weight.
We lost 5 or 6 kilograms of weight.
Yeah, off all
just from the
junk.
road-going gear.
Yeah.
So we threw that away. Other modified bits, things like fairing mounts,
Yeah.
footrests,
Yeah.
the gear change levers,
They stole the petrol tank.
are all made in-house.
In-house, yeah.
Everything we've done ourselves.
Yeah.
So the chassis in itself, other than the slight modification, is
Yeah.
absolutely standard geometry.
It is, yeah. And to be fair, it really does ride well. Even though when the couple of times that I've ridden it, I've not really been comfortable on the bike, because I'm still learning the bike and still learning the tracks. So, but yeah, I mean, we added the extra bit on to make the seat a little bit higher, so that's all extra. We made this battery back here somewhere, get over the bit more weight over the back end. It'd been nice to have it down in the centre, but I didn't particularly want the carburetors blasting fuel all over the battery.
What can you tell us about the front suspension in particular?
Well, the front suspension was, I got in touch with, I can't remember his name, at Maxton, and after a lot of chatting and emails back and forth, they made me these front forks for this bike. I think there's some stickers on them somewhere, I don't know where, but it says Benelli on them. The problem is that the forks were bigger than the standard Benelli tubes, stanchions. So I went to see a friend of mine, or his friend now, just up the road, Lincoln. He's an ex racer, had a bit of a bad crash, and retired. Bless him. A guy called Ivan Linton. He bored these out so the forks fit, and did a lovely cracking job on them. So yeah, full Maxton front end, made for this bike. Nice bit of kit.
The handlebars,
they're just stock stuff off the shelf, really.
Yep.
Nothing special. The levers and what have you were all, as you can see, they've got bits in there if you want to have a mirror on them, so see who's coming up behind you. They weren't expensive, and the reason being is that, you know, it was sort of, I've spent a fair bit of money, but I've not skimped, and I've not gone stupid. You know, I could have spent a lot of money on real posh brake levers.
But if you're going to throw it down the road...
If you're going to throw it down the road, they're very inexpensive throwing them down the road.
Now, the rear shocks...
Yeah,
again,
they're Maxton again. They're ones that they made for me for this bike. And
so the springs within the suspension system...
It's all set up for me.
Set up for you.
For me and this bike.
Brilliant.
And it does track really, really well.
Yeah. Again, the rear wheel...
It's a standard drum.
Standard drum.
Yeah, with a new aluminium rim.
Okay, good. I noticed this is the tacho's a non-standard item.
Yeah, it's Krober, Motorplat, as that one was, or is. I did have the original Krober off my original Benelli, but when we came round to trying to get it to work, it wouldn't work. So I'd kept it for 50 years, and it's no good.
It could probably be repaired.
It probably could be repaired, yeah.
Again, the electrics.
Total loss. I mean, we've got battery on the back. It's a Ignitech ignition system. Luckily, when I was talking about going for ignitions and what, I wasn't really sure what to go for. Had numerous people tell me what to go for, and then Guy Pearson from Exact World, who many years ago I used to work for, Guy said go with Ignitech, Dave. He said it's a cracking bit of kit, it's not overly expensive, and it'll do exactly what you want. So we went down a route, went for Ignitech, and yeah, happy days.
From my perspective, the good thing about the Ignitech system is that it is programmable, and it allows us to make adjustments.
Yeah.
So when we do finally get to dyno it, then
we can mess about with ignition mapping and get it right for this bike.
Right, let's turn to the important part. The
go-go
motor
bit.
And the pipes.
Right, motor, originally the 231. This has been bored out to a 250 with can't remember the name of the Pistons now, but anyway, that don't make no difference.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, Wasner Pistons. So it's got Wasner Pistons in it. It's got 34mm Mikuni carburetors, which the original ones were about 28mm. Del Autos. It's got this setup of inlet manifolds for it, which work really well. I got my crank from a guy in Italy who makes cranks for these Benellis. The only problem is that the rods are slightly longer than the original ones. If you do see underneath there's an aluminium plate just there, because the rods are a few millimetres longer. So we lifted the barrels up to get them absolutely spot on.
The barrels themselves, they're not standard.
No, they're not standard by any stretch of the thing. They went off to a friend of mine called Richard Slynn at Trick Tuning. I've known Richard for a long time, and he, at the time when I knew Richard, the 125s that he was working on, the NSR and the NS 125s, they were all the fast ones were always his engines. So when I come round to thinking about doing this, I thought I'd give Richard a shout, and he said, oh yeah, I'd love to, Dave. Never worked on one of them. So he did a load of the work on it. We got all the heads done, and that's a funny story because the guy who welded all the heads up is Carl Ride's dad.
Oh,
and I think is Carl leading the championship at the minute,
somewhere
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just had a couple of good wins at Donington Park. So yeah, his dad did all the welding on that, and got all machined out. It's got a non-standard gearbox in it, which I was lucky enough to get from Italy, sourced through some guys in Italy. So that's all sorted now. So we've got a proper race gearbox in it. The clutch we talked about, it's a wet clutch. We talked about, and people in Italy have done dry clutches for it. It might well be something that we do eventually get round to doing.
And the pipes?
Exhaust pipes. Yeah, again, it was another one of those ones where when I was talking to Richard about exhaust, he said, well, there's only one man to go to, is Richard Bacon from ABCOM in Nottingham. He'll make me the pipes. Well, I spoke to Richard on the phone, and we talked about getting the exhaust pipes done. He said, yeah, no worries, I can do you some pipes. I said, brilliant, when do you want the chassis? He said, about 8 months. So I had to wait 8 months to get the exhaust pipes made, because he's got such a long list of people wanted expansion chambers making, because he's that good. So it was like, okay, I was never in a rush. I'd rather wait and get something that's made for this bike, an engine, rather than just some cobbly bits.
What would you say was the total build time on this?
About 3 years, 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, something like that. But I was never in a rush. You know, it was basically when bits came, that was fine. We're never in a rush. Never wanted to be in a rush.
No. For me, being part of the project, I think the most enjoyable bit has been making all the odds and sods bits, being on the lathe, making the footrests, turning out bespoke bits and pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Putting it together, trying it,
yeah,
modifying.
It's going to be an ongoing project for hopefully years to come.
Yeah.
It's not a something that we're done and that's it.
No. It did have its maiden voyage at
Anglesey.
Anglesey.
Yeah, well, Anglesey from Lincoln is about as far west as you can go. Nearly.
Well, without going splash.
Yeah, without going splash. So a circuit I've been to once. I went there to see you and John Hannaford race his bike, and so that was the first time I'd ever been to the circuit. I'd never ridden round it before. Didn't really know anything about Anglesey. I'd seen it on the television. So I decided to go to Anglesey because I didn't want to go to Cadwell because all my mates would turn up and take their Michael. So I thought I'd go as far away and nobody's going to bother coming all that way. And so I went to a circuit on a bike that I'd never ridden. I'd ridden it as far as the end of the road and back. So I'd never ridden it on a track that I didn't know. Yeah, not really a smart move. And unfortunately, the weekend that we were supposed to go away, Maureen was poorly, so you couldn't come. So there was just me and Sue. So it was a bit of a trauma, but anyway, everything went okay.
It amused the marshals.
It did amuse the marshals immensely because I had a little breakdown on the last race of the day, and the marshal was saying, "Oh, you seem to know where you're going now." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, when we saw you in the morning, we weren't sure what circuit you were at, but you certainly weren't riding around Anglesey."
I mean, one of the pleasing things for me was on the Saturday evening, Dave sent me some photographs, and I'd been following the races online through the CRMC website. He sent me a nice picture of Dave, the bike, and a trophy.
I did, yeah.
Which was for
the best road racing bike at the show, at the meeting.
So that in itself was pleasing.
Yeah, I mean, the chief marshal or the chief scrutineer said it's one of the nicest bikes he'd seen in a long time.
Which was very pleasing.
Very
for both
pleasing.
of us.
Yeah, very pleasing.
Right, the next outing
Yes,
was somewhat traumatic.
it was. Yeah.
Dave decided to bite the bullet and take the Benelli to
Cadwell.
Cadwell, his local circuit, which he'd been around many times.
Many
before.
times.
For me, it was pleasing because A, Dave knew where he was going. B, because there was more confidence in the bike when he got out on track, and it all went well for a while.
Yeah.
Until it was smoking out of one pot.
Yeah.
So
we sorted that out.
On the fly repairs, it was a crank seal, right hand side crank seal.
Got it repaired.
So we put it up on the bench and repaired it, and off he went out again. Now the following day was a mixed bag, wasn't it?
It was a mixed bag, yeah.
So I'll let you tell this story.
Well, everything's going okay. I'm happy. Bike's going well, and then you do what comes naturally to idiots like me. I fell off it. And I fell off it at the Gooseneck. And anybody that knows Cadwell Park, the Gooseneck's not really the right place to fall off a motorbike. Anyway, it sort of high-sided me, landed on the softest part of me, which was my head, and it knocked me out. I'm sat on the grass, and I'm sort of laid there, and I could see sort of blue sky, thinking, okay, I'm still here. And I'm sort of laid there, and then this face appeared and sort of said, "All right, mate." I went, "Yeah, all right." And he said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I feel okay." He said, "Do you want to sit up?" So I said, yeah. No, I tried to sit up and went, "No, I think I want to lie down a bit more." So I had a bit more of a lie down. By that time, the paramedic and the ambulance and everything had turned up for me. Took me to medical centre, and eventually they let me go, which was okay. Said to me, "Go home, get your hands and what have you all checked out," and fine. So I never really told anybody that. Went back to the pits. We decided enough was enough because I couldn't race the bike anymore. It was pretty mangled. So we loaded all up. Well, these lads did. I wasn't really in a fit state to do that. So Sue had come in the car, the wife. Steve couldn't drive the motorhome because
Overweight.
it was overweight. So the only person that could drive it was me. So I'd got both poorly hands, as I'd rattled them on the ground quite hard, and still a bit sort of, head was spinning around a bit, and so off we set, everything loaded up, and puts it in first gear, trundles off, ready to put into second gear. No way could I get it into second gear because my wrist hurt that much. So luckily Steve changed gear as we became a dual control yeah,
system.
we did. I had a Steve-o-matic gearbox. Steve changed gear as I used the clutch. Anyway, we got home and that's fine. A couple of days later, the end of that week, we got holiday booked in the motorhome, so we go down to the south coast near the Isle of Wight. Sue wants to go onto the Isle of Wight to look at something, so I drove all the way around the Isle of Wight. Come home, Sue said to me, "You really ought to go to hospital." I sort of, at that time, the hospitals were under a lot of pressure, and they were telling everybody, unless you were really, really ill or sick, don't go to hospital. So Sue said I should go to hospital because I wasn't right. And so on the Monday when we got back, I went to hospital and found that I'd ripped the tendon off that knuckle. I'd broken 2 bones there, broken my thumb and my wrist. The doctor said to me, if it was a week ago, they would have pinned my wrist, which I'm quite pleased they didn't because there was no need to. The worst bit, I mean, my fingers are quite a bit smaller now than they were, as you can see. So because the knuckles have gone, I can't really see very well, but yeah, the knuckles have been pushed back. But and I've lost a bit of grip, but that doesn't matter. So they were say that bit, I had to have it splinted, and they said to me I weren't allowed to take the splint off at all, because if you took it off it would just revert back to how it was. So I had 4 months with a splint on, which makes working on motorbikes quite difficult.
And picking your nose.
It was, yeah. But anyway, it's straighter than it was, because it was going off at an angle like that. But yeah, man's fine, pretty good now.
Right, so what's next for the Benelli? Well, the crash damage has almost been repaired.
To be fair, Steve, after the crash I didn't really feel like messing about with motorbikes. I wasn't really in the mood. I wasn't really fit enough to do it, and it, as I was going to say, after sort of a couple of 3 months, my left arm started to go numb. I'd had this problem before, and eventually went to the doctor. Doctor said they send me for a scan on my neck, and found that I'd got a herniated disc in my neck, which they're going to operate hopefully in the next couple of months and fix that, so I can be properly get fit again.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Dave's take on his Benelli. There are a few more bits and pieces to do. Majority of it cosmetic. Today we've been painting. Well, we had a day painting fairings and tanks and
bits and bobs the other
day. The front mudguard, that was painting, it's back on again. So not too far away.
No, and then the next bit really is get the tank and everything all sorted, seat on, tank on, all lacquered up, week or so, bit of fuel in it, start it up, warm it up 2 or 3 times, and then take it off to the dyno, get it all set up properly, and then get somebody on it.
Yep. There are plans afoot that are still in discussion stages to get somebody on it, but we'll wait and see about that one. We'll wait and see about that one.
It all depends on when they're going to do my neck.
Yep.
Because I'm the only one who can drive the motorhome. So if I can't drive, and we ain't going anywhere.
No. Okay, let's hope that you've enjoyed this instalment. And
by the way, don't forget, like and subscribe.
Don't forget to ring that bell.
And if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. We might be able to answer them. We'll try and answer them all, even if it's. Yeah, we'll have a good go.
We'll tell you something, even if
it's rubbish.
Yeah, even if it's rubbish.
But it won't be rubbish. we're fairly honest, and if we can help you out, we will.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Bye, Neil.
Bye, Neil.
Go on, bye, Neil. Bye, go on. Mind a step.
Yeah.
Bye, mind a step. Cheers. Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye. So we're going to put the kettle on now and leave him as he is.
Yeah.
Get in here.
Come on, tea.